Bueno, saludos a todos que están entrando al momento. En este video, yo, Jay, el Gordo, va a estar hablando de 2 o 3 cosas. Muy simple. Tú sabes que los gordos siempre tienen que saber comer, saben a comer muy bien y tienen una forma distinta de cocinar para ellos, los gordos. Cada gordo gusta su comida, su forma. Yo soy casi igual. Yo tenía que aprender a comer, no comer, pero cocinar a la comida que me gusta más. Entonces, con eso, yo te voy a enseñar algunos trucos. Si te conviene o no te conviene, está bien. Pero en este segmento, vamos a estar hablando del show de la fatátula. En simple, el gordo espectacular. Muy simple, el fatátula. Por eso se llama el fatátula show. So today's segment is very simplified. As a fat man, we fat men like to eat. As we like to eat, we have to learn how to cook our own meals and make our own meals. And of course, if we're involved with others, they get to enjoy the food that we cook. So today's segment is not based on cooking. It's more based on what's coming up on the Fatatula Show. Your host, which is myself, Jay, as some know me, Uncle Jay. I am the fat, spectacular man. Hence the reason why the Fatatula Show is named Fatatula. Fatatula. Fat, spectacular, put it together, Fatatula. So you know in my last segment, I always said, if you invite me to cook, I want to see you prepping your food because I'm not going to eat your food if I don't see you prepping it. So once again, I'm going to show you what I do in my kitchen. You do what you want to do in your kitchen. You cook how you want to cook in your kitchen. That's on you. But this is how I do it because I like to make sure that everything is right. So over here, we're going to have our pasta. Over here, we're going to have our meat. Over here, we're going to do a London broil. And of course, my own special seasoning that I put together. And of course, you got to have everything, which is called mise en place. A lo que está mirando y verificando y aquí conmigo en este segmento, el show de Fatátula es muy simple, un show de varias cosas. Y como yo estaba diciendo ahorita, yo soy un gordo, por eso el nombre del show es Fatátula, gordo, espectacular, en inglés, Fatátula. El show es Fatátula. En este segmento, yo siempre digo, si tú me invitas a su casa a comer comida, yo quiero ver a usted preparando la comida. Porque si yo no veo a usted preparando la comida, yo no voy a comer ni un chin. La razón es que yo no conozco tu forma de cocinar. Bueno, en este segmento yo te voy a enseñar la forma que yo cocino en mi cocina. No es una cocina restaurante ni nada de eso, pero yo tengo mis especialidades de restaurante. Mi negocio antes, yo sé, de cocinar. Y con eso yo te voy a enseñar mi forma, no para todos, pero es la forma simple. Aquí vamos a tener la pasta, la spaghetti. Aquí vamos a tener el carne de res mezclada con la cebolla y pimiento para hacerle un spaghetti de carne. Y en este lado vamos a tener un bistec gordo, como yo, que se llama London broil. Aquí yo te voy a enseñar la forma que yo lo hago. No estoy diciendo que usted está haciendo algo más o mal o menos. Yo solamente estoy diciendo, si tú vienes a mi casa, esta es la forma que yo te voy a introducir la comida mía. Yo te voy a enseñar que aquí yo estoy cocinando, así tú puedes ver cómo yo preparo mi comida y el camino o los pasos para llegar a la comida que tú vas a disfrutar. As I said, in my kitchen, I do it this way. because if you, as I said before, you invite me to your kitchen, I want to be able to see what you do. And of course, if you come to my house, if you come to my place, whether you come for the cookout, whatever the case may be, you get to see me prepping the food exactly. You get to see how clean and how everything is prepped. So with that being said, today's show is mainly based off what's soon to happen. Now, again, keep in mind, everything I have done has already been cleaned, prepped, and so forth. So there's no need for you to see all that stuff, but just to see the simple things that I do. Mainly the show today is talking about what's up and coming on the Fat Tattler show. On the Fat Tattler show, of course, we have what's called Bronx Tales. Okay, Bronx Tales is basically a show we're going to be talking about things that have happened in the Bronx, things that I've experienced growing up in the Bronx. For those that are going to join, it's very simplified. If you join, you can chit chat with me in the chat room or possibly come on live television or video, whatever you want to call it, and share your thoughts. And maybe we'll have some laughs together so we can actually enlighten everybody else that what they have missed out on in the Bronx growing up. Because we had, well, I know I had a lot of fun growing up in the Bronx. I've seen a lot of things happening in the Bronx. A lot of people don't know about things that happened in the Bronx because they just moved there recently, or they're too young to know what happened, right? So the other night, I was on a show and we had a simple conversation about the Bronx, and a lot of funny things came up about what was missing out, what we were missing out on as far as in the Bronx, and how we were enjoying the Bronx when we was kids growing up. The things that we did as kids, the trouble we got into, the people we saw, the people we didn't see. Basically, how even as a kid growing up in the Bronx, we didn't grow up to be people in trouble or situations where you'd be considered a non-conforming citizen of wherever it is that you live. Because a lot of people saw that in the Bronx, you were doomed to be in a bad position the older you got. But we turned around and safe to say we turned out pretty dang on well. So since we turned out pretty well, we're going to talk about it. I myself, I'm going to start my conversations with Bronx Tales when I lived on 175th and Grand Concourse. 175 Grand Concourse. If anybody knows about that in the Bronx, you got to come by and check out the pictures that I have of when I was there as a kid growing up, the things I experienced. In the background, by the way, you're going to hear my fur babies. They're going to be jumping around, making noise. That's what you're going to hear. You're probably going to hear some barking. Don't worry, nobody's coming in. That's just them having a ball because they know I'm on camera. That's what they do. When they hear me on camera, they want to make noise. If they no attention for anybody else, it's just us. That's what they do. So you're going to hear them in the background. Don't worry about it. They're not attacking nobody. So 175 Grand Concourse is where I grew up. And I want to talk about what I've seen growing up, what I experienced growing up, how much fun it was. Whether you grew up in the Bronx or you know about the Bronx, there may be some things that you really didn't know about the Bronx. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the things that you don't know and or just have a little chit chat about what it was back in the day. Because at the end of the day, it's all about having fun, reminiscing, the good, the bad, the ugly, and even if you survived in the Bronx. Because again, a lot of people, now I'm not saying that any other borough is bad or better or anything like that, because some people have similar experiences and lived in other towns, other states. My show is specifically going to talk about the Bronx and the things that I experienced, the schools, the people, the interactions, things we remember, things that we looked out for, things that made sense to us growing up that won't make sense to other people. That's what we're going to talk about. Right now, the show is going to be segmented for approximately maybe 30 to 45 minutes. If the interaction becomes a little more healthy, meaning more people want to talk, then we'll push it a little bit longer. But for right now, every Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday is what we're going to be doing, which is talking about the Bronx. Now, as I prepare my meal here, or meals rather, as I mentioned before, everybody has a different technique. Not everybody's going to be the same. Some people may have it differently. Some people want to do something more fancier. I just want to eat. When you want to eat, you just want to make sure it gets done right. That's all you're concerned about. At the end of the day, it's all about how it tastes, not how about anything else. Because it can look good, doesn't mean it's going to taste good. So, that being said, I like to make sure that mine tastes good. If it don't taste good, we got a problem. So, I do all my prepping first before I cook anything because I believe in mise en place. Mise en place is a very simple term. Everything has its place. And as long as you start everything the right way, you'll be all right. Now, some of you may say, well, you're not going to wash your cutting board after you did that. As I said, this is my kitchen, and this is the way I do it. So I'm not going to clean it because I pay for water. Well, some of you don't pay for water. I pay for water. So I got to make sure that it's right. I don't need to be cleaning constantly anything off because I do my vegetables first, and then I do my meats after. And when I do my meats, there's no real reason to be concerned about cleaning off what you are cooking with or cooking. So what I like to do is, as you see, I have a London broil here. Very nice piece, very nice cut, very minimal marbling. Marbling is this body fat that you see here. When you see a lot of that marbling inside, you may think it's a good cut, but in actuality, it's not a good cut. Because in essence, when you start cooking it and all that marbling starts to melt away, it also tends to take away the actual meat that you want to eat. And you wind up losing your meat. And you're trying to figure out, well, dang, I bought a 4-pound slab of beef and I only got a pound and a half to eat. It shrunk a lot. You probably bought it that it had a lot of marbling on it. Too much marbling is no good. Now, if you're smoking it, it's okay because you need that marbling to smoke so that it actually cooks through and through, and it does very well in a smoker because the fat stays on there and becomes just as soft as the meat. So depending on what you like, I don't like too much marbling on mine because I want as much meat as I can find. And I always tend to get a nice cut. So this right here is a nice cut. Okay, that's for me. What I like to do is I like to make sure I get a nice size cut, keep it separate because I like to do certain things to mine. So as you know, I have my own special put together seasoning. And this is what I like to do to make sure I get a nice through and through cut, through and through seasoning, through and through wonderful eating. As you see, I sliced this in half because even as it's nice and thick, that'd be a nice burger, wouldn't that? That'd be a serious burger. Wow. If you was to eat a burger like that from me, you'd probably want to get married. You'll probably turn around and tell me you need to get married. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen either. But this would be a real nice burger. I might make one in the days coming up. What I like to do is many, many years ago, we used to tenderize our meat with a little machine that had spokes in it. And you tenderize your meat. Some people bang it, bang it, bang it, bang it. You don't need to bang it. You don't need to beat it. You need to poke it. right? And the reason why you poke it is because what many of you don't realize is the same thing like yourself, you're sweating. So what we're doing here when we poke it, for example, you might be able to see some holes there. The holes become like your skin, it pores. So it allows sweat, you know, it allows the meat to sweat. It also allows the meat to breathe better with the seasoning. That's why they made that funny little device for many people back in the day that couldn't do this. They couldn't hold the fork right. So they need that machine to make the holes. And it was a very, very successful tool many, many years ago until people started realizing, why do I need to spend that money for that when I could use my fork? Exhibit A. The reason why I do this is I'm going to show you in a moment why. So as you know, I did splice it in half, right? And of course, as I spliced it in half, I opened it this way. So now you're able to probably see the holes on the inside. Then, of course, greatest thing ever is me, I always wear lots of gloves because when it comes time for me to switch out or grab something, I want to be able to grab with a good pair of clean gloves. Because there's funny things called cross-contamination. This is the reason why I don't eat in people's houses when I don't see them cooking. Because cross-contamination can come from anything. From them picking their nose, scratching their ears, scratching their pants, scratching their shirt, scratching their chin, pushing back their hair, wiping their eyes. It's cross-contamination, which means something that's not supposed to be on it shouldn't be on it. So you see I put some new gloves on. Now I take my seasoning that I prepared myself, and I put my seasoning from the middle as such. As I said, I'm a fat man, and I love to eat, and those that eat with me understand why. Now we do this here, almost like a sandwich, you can say. We're gonna flip it over, make sure we have the seasoning on both sides. Look at that beauty. Look at that beauty. Isn't that a wonderful thing? I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Just a little bit more because I want to be fat, just like I am. Now you say, well, what about the outside? Well, here's the idea. Right now, I don't need to put on the outside because what I need to do first, I need to pick it up, drop it inside my pan that has a little oil in it. And then, of course, I go back. Now I put the extra seasoning on it, give it a nice little rub, little tenderizer, little, ooh, baby, yeah, yeah, rub that. No, behave yourselves. It ain't that kind of show. It's not an all in fans. I'm just gonna rub that in there and make sure that actually marinates well and sits inside. Okay. And then of course we're gonna flip it over and we do the same thing on the other side. Why? Because a fat man like to eat, and I like to make sure that my meats have great flavor. That's my big thing. Okay. So here we are here, nice and simplified. Got this one piece there, nice and uh, flavorful from what you can probably see with a lot of seasoning on it so that it has great flavor. And I'll show you that in a moment when I get the other piece ready and what happens. And again, like I said, change my gloves. Because if you invite me to your house, I better see some gloves. I don't see gloves, I'm not eating. Don't get offended. I'm gonna tell you as soon as I walk in the door. And matter of fact, if you know me and we've known each other for a while, you already know that if you invite me to come over to eat, you already know what the first thing you're gonna do. You're gonna tell me, Jay, I got gloves and I'm ready to show you what I'm doing, and then we can eat. Or you think you're cooking good, and I'm gonna insult you and I'm gonna tell you your food sucks. And I don't even have to eat it to tell you your food sucks because you didn't even prep it the right way. I didn't see you prep it, so I'm gonna tell you it sucks. So you can be mad at me all you want. So I take off some of this marbling, as I said before. I don't like too much marbling on my meats because to me, the way I cook my meats, I need them to be very, very juicy and I need them to have great flavor. And I don't want the marbling to absorb all the flavoring and stop that wonderful flavor that I'm putting in there to go away. That's why I take off this extra marbling because I don't need it. You really don't need it. Some places keep it. We used to keep it back in the restaurants, keep it on the meats, because at the end of the day, you know what happens? Some of you may understand this. When you bite into a steak or you bite into a piece of meat and you got that chewy flavor, that chewy moment, you're like, man, that don't taste so good for me. That's because it's the marbling. So what they do is they keep the marbling on there, so they charge you for the weight. So the marbling acts as weight. And then after they weigh it, they sell it to you, and then you think you're getting a great price, but actually they're giving you the cheapest price. They're giving you the most expensive price because they realize they've already charged you for the weight of the marbling. So the more marbling you see, the less meat you're going to have. Now we see this one here, I cut completely in half. Reason why I did that was because this is going to be served two different ways. Some would be for our fur babies, and the rest would be for us. And of course, if I want to have a sandwich, I want to be able to grab a slab and sandwich away, right? So again, gotta get out the gloves because I'm about to touch some stuff. So here we go with that. Get these gloves on once again. Now again, the show coming up Wednesday, as I said, is going to be called Bronx Tales. And Bronx Tales is basically going to be, as I said, talking about experiences. Hopefully, some people come in and start talking about it and make it a little more interesting because I'm a long talker. I can talk. I'm long-winded. So some people may come in and not realize what they're getting into, but I'm going to make it fun because there's a lot of things in the Bronx that a lot of people don't remember. My favorite places, just to start it off, Petona Park, Claremont Park, Mount Hope, Webster Avenue, Jerome Avenue, Bathgate, I did say Jerome, University Avenue, Bainbridge. You can tell a lot of places I've stepped around at. But we can't forget about Parkchester, Noble Avenue, Cruz Avenue, Soundview, Watson, and of course, Southern Boulevard. So just so you guys know, girls know, when I come on the show, the Fantacular Show airs this coming Wednesday, and most likely every Wednesday moving forward, 6:30 p.m. I'm talking about the Bronx. And based off what you just heard, you know for sure I have a lot of content, a lot of things to talk about, a lot of content to talk about, all about the Bronx. Because to me, the Bronx, I had a lot of fun there growing up, experienced the good, bad, ugly, and the otherwise. And basically, that's what we're going to do. We're going to experience it all together and talk about it. This way we can have some laughs about it and see where it takes us. Once again, we're going to get that in there so that it actually gets a little happier inside a nice little bath. We're going to dress it up a little bit more, get that down in there, this way the pores can actually feel that extra goodness steeping to the other side. We're going to flip her back over again, bring it back around, nice and comfortable, like that. Give it a nice little rub down where it can actually stay together. Now, on another note, many of you would turn around and stick your meats and your foods in your ovens, whatever, and you put it on 300, 350, and all that other good stuff, right? Not me. I put it in 200. Put it at 200, that nicely, slowly cook. Why? Because at 200 degrees, you get something like this. I'm gonna make sure we can see this comfortably. I'm gonna slow down here so we all can get a nice look at how this is. This is straight goodness right here. If you don't know, you better ask somebody. Fat men love to eat, So we make sure that when we cook the right way. So that I'm put that on the side right now. Put that right now in the oven. The oven is sitting at 200 degrees. Now you ask, what you gonna do with that? Well, like as I said before, I have fur babies. My fur babies like to eat just as well as I do. So I do this. Give them something to eat. This way they get fed because no, they're not getting it raw. They get it cooked the same way as I do. Okay. But why? Because every time it's got to be cooked. I don't feed my dogs, my puppies, raw meat. All right. Now, some of you are saying, well, dang it, Jay, what you said you'd make the spaghetti. I ain't seen anything yet. Well, I'm going to show you now. So this is what I do with my spaghettis. Beef. And again, we're talking about ground beef. You know, one of the other days I saw a buddy, another content creator, funny as hell, funny guy, had vegetarian beans put inside his ground beef. And then, of course, he said he had ground beef, and he said that he had some beef cubes. That was what he said he had. He said he had some beef cubes. I said, how dare you insult the actual beef by putting vegetarian beans in with the beef stew and the ground beef. Now, as you see, I got my ground beef here. Yeah, I got my pieces of meat in here, my other pieces of beef, right? It's for my fur babies. Because what you don't know is not about seasonings that can kill your fur babies. It's the amount that they consume that's the difference. So with me, on the other hand, I don't put a lot of seasoning in there because the seasoning doesn't have to be inside the meat. The seasoning has to be inside the sauce that you're going to make with your spaghettis. That's where you want the flavor. You don't want the flavor in the meat because, again, you know what the meat's going to taste like. It's going to taste like the sauce. That's why it gets cooked in the sauce. So I just add a little seasoning, not much, as you see here, just to give a little flavor in there because, again, the main flavor comes inside the sauce. You have a nice little mix in there. This way it's all mixed in together. And then, of course, when I show you this, you're going to see why I say it's okay to feed my fur babies a little seasoning. Because, of course, when you know what seasonings your fur babies can eat, you don't worry too much about it because there's certain aspects of seasonings that your fur babies cannot eat. We have already figured out what our fur babies can eat. And I put it very simplified. One of our fur babies is a fanatic with eating twigs and branches and bark from the tree. And she has no problem with it. Okay. The male, on the other hand, he's another one. He's a finicky eater. If he doesn't smell it right, he won't eat it. So as you see, there's not a lot of seasoning as I did with the London broiler. It's very little, right? Now, again, the reason why I do that is because in here, the seasoning is not needed. The seasoning is inside the sauce that I'm going to make in a little bit because the sauce has to simmer and the sauce has to be prepared. So you see, there's not a lot of meat, a lot of seasoning in this ground beef and or the beef pieces that I put in there. Now, the reason why I put them together, as I mentioned before, is because my fur babies have no problem eating the meat. So with that being said, and of course, you saw I have my onions and peppers because that's going to go inside my ground beef with my sauce, and it's going to be all marinated together. So you got peppers, onions with the sauce, seasoning with the sauce in the spaghettis, and then introduce the ground beef that's cooked into the spaghettis. Now, the reason why I'm keeping my hand in here is because this hand has got a glove that's dirty, and I don't want to take it out yet. So with that being said, for those that are watching, I thank you for stopping by. Because as I say all the time, your time is precious, my time is precious, and the one commodity that none of us can ever get back is time. So with that being said, I thank you for coming in. And for those Latinos and Latinas that started listening in the beginning, I know you understand a little bit of Spanish. I know you understand a little bit of English or vice versa. So, con eso yo te voy a ver ya pronto en la próxima edición de la programa de la Fatáculo Show, hablando del Bronx, de Nueva York, donde yo crié. No, donde yo crié, mejor dice, sí, donde yo estaba criando, porque yo nací en la República Dominicana, en la Boca Chica, en el pueblo de Boca Chica, y con eso yo tengo mucho poder por el pueblo de Bronx y a la gente que estaban ahí en mi época y quiero representar a ellos las situaciones que yo pasé y demás verificar si hay gente viviendo en esa época donde cuando yo estaba ahí, a ver si ellos están presentes o si están vivos. So with that being said, as I mentioned a moment ago, one of the reasons why I want to do the Bronx Tale Talk is because as I'm a Dominican born in Boca Chica, I was raised in the Bronx, and I want to see exactly how many people can relate to the time frame of when I was living in the Bronx, and possibly see how many people are still alive that were there during the time that I was living. That's the main thing that I'm looking for, because I want to see exactly if how many people survived living in the Bronx, because we had a lot of experiences in the Bronx going on. So of course, the Bronx Fatacular Cho, it's CHO. In Spanish, it's pronounced Cho. So that's why it's CHOH. So it's the Fatacular Show, which is the Fat Spectacular Man, which is myself, Jay. And I keep my fingers crossed that you're able to stop by and have a little bit of talks with me. And if you don't, always like, follow, subscribe, and share. And of course, remember, it's all about having good fun. So until then, I ask you guys to always remember, tell your loved ones you will see them later, because if you tell your loved ones bye and you don't see them anymore, it hurts 20,000 times more. So just tell your loved ones you'll see them later. This way they know that when later comes, whether it be a minute, whether it be an hour, whether it be a day, you will come back and see them. So with that being said, here on the Fat Satchel Show, I am your host, Jay, a Gordo, the fat man. And I wish Wednesday, don't forget now, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's New York City time. I'll be having my Bronx Tale show and talking about the Bronx. So until then, I will see you all later.